Welcome to the Building Interest podcast presented by LeaderBank, a series of free-flowing conversations on a wide range of banking and money-related subjects. We're here to discuss all the issues that impact your financial future. Want to buy a home, start a small business, secure your financial future, or maybe you want to maximize your savings ability or get your budget in order? We can help. Our talks with experts and influencers across the world of banking will set you in the right direction. I'm your host, Scott Barboza. Let's get to it. Well, everybody, welcome aboard another edition of the Building Interest podcast. I am distinctly privileged today to have Sushil Tuli with me here at our Seaport Innovation District branch once again. Sushil, we really wanted to, obviously in episode 1, we talked to your son, Jay, talked a little bit about the 20th anniversary, but, it's really great talking to Jay, going through some of the family memories and the times that you have shared together as a family. I really want to bring this back to the beginning in some senses because I think your family story is so uniquely American and so very interesting. I know you came to this country from India in 1978. We're 20 years into LeaderBank now. Could you ever imagine sitting in this location in the midst of Boston? I mean, just walk me through that, what that life experience has been like for you and your family.
So, Scott, first of all, thank you so much for having me here.
It's my pleasure.
And welcome to LeaderBank. I'm so glad you're doing this for us.
It's still a little
way overdue. Yeah. So glad to have you doing it for us.
Still a newbie over here. Yeah, it's great.
So I came from India in 1978. Just like everybody, every immigrant, land of opportunities, looking for new opportunities here.
Right.
And I got my first job in a bank. And I liked it and just worked through the ranks in my bank. And in 1986, I decided that I want to open my own business. Mm-hmm. So I opened a mortgage company.
Yeah.
And opened one, made it very successful. I made it successful by taking care of first-time home buyers, immigrants,
right,
to make sure the people who need a mortgage,
right,
that I can help them out.
Right.
And during that time, I was appointed on Fannie Mae's advisory board, got Technology Leadership Award, all kind of things. But in the late 90s, I said, okay, enough of mortgage company. I need to do something else. And I decided to open a bank. Mm-hmm. And everybody I talk to that I'm going to open a bank, and they will look at me and they will say, what do you mean open a bank? People don't open banks. And I said, no, that's what my dream is.
Banks have been around for a very long time, and they tend to stay in business for a very long time.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a little bit of an insular kind of world in that way.
That's right. And I remember one of my friend, John Fanchulo, who later worked with me.
Okay.
And I told John, I said, I want to open a bank. And he said, what do you want? I said, in 10 years, I want it to be $1 billion bank. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, Sushil, a lot of people try to do that, but it doesn't happen.
Right.
I said, but we're going to make it happen.
Right.
So we got a license from OCC to open a bank. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We went through the process to get the FDIC approval. Mm-hmm. Took about 2.5 years. Once I have all the approvals, we opened our first branch in East Arlington. $6.5 million in capital deposits. And honestly, I had no idea, one, that I still will be running the bank 20 years later, and we will grow to more than $3 billion bank.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
it truly is.
It's like one of those things. You dream about it, you want to do it, you are motivated and determined to do it.
Right.
Have we made it happen?
Motivated and determined. I like that. You could put that on a motivational poster like you have up in the office. I really love that. One thing you brought up, Sushil, this is the 20th anniversary. We just, are really kicking off a lot of the festivities this year. How much of that is very much a celebration of the workforce and everybody that has come together to help, you realize those dreams that you had?
Every year is a celebration for us because it's team members.
Right.
And when we sit down at the end of the year, we make a 3-year business plan. Mm-hmm. And in that plan, we see, okay, where the bank is going to be 3 years from now. But in order to get to that point, who are the team members we need? Who's going to get us there? And we've been doing it since 20 years. And it's just really a celebration. And thank you to all the people. First of all, thank you to my founders of Leader Bank
Yeah.
who believed in me
Right,
that, okay,
right.
they want to be the founders, they want to invest money with me. Then board of directors, we have very unique, very intelligent board members who challenge us, but at the same time they support us too.
Right.
And they help
It's an
us
important
grow.
dynamic.
Yeah. And then for any CEO, they need to build a great team around them. And I built a great team, and then Jay came to work with me. And then Jay proved himself to the board, to the shareholders, to the
Yeah,
management.
of course.
He's my son, but he's gonna work hard, and he's gonna show to them that he can make things happen. And then Jay was promoted president a few years ago, and he's building a right team around him. And just look at you both. If he was Sushil Tully president, it wouldn't be happening because my views are different, old-fashioned and things.
Right.
So he's building the right team, the people
Right.
who's gonna take Leader Bank to the next 20 years from now.
Give us a little bit of a lens into the family dynamic in that regard. Obviously, your family first, business also intermingled with that. How many opportunities do you have in the course of, family get-togethers when it's, a weekend and everybody's just hanging out at the house or whatever? How much is it sometimes difficult to kind of, suss out business from the personal and vice versa?
So initially, when I opened the bank, when Jay started working with me, we'll talk bank at work and we'll talk bank at home.
Right.
But then we decided this is defeating the purpose. So we decided at
Right.
home,
Right.
we will not talk about bank at all.
Right.
And when we are at the bank, we don't
We're
talk
just
about
talk-
home.
right.
Yeah. So at home,
I think that's a good kind of separation too, because I think if those things commingle, they can get a little,
Yeah.
not knowing what's where.
Also the other family member, they get bored.
Right.
They say,
Right, yeah.
they say, what do we have to talk about the bank?
Right.
Wait,
Right.
and go to bank and talk.
Yeah. When's dinner actually?
Exactly. So I have 7 grandchildren.
Awesome.
And so the family dynamic is when we get together, when the grandkids come home, there's nothing. That's the pure enjoyment.
Yeah, right.
To spend time with them. I even don't.
It's
think
much more
about
fun
that
being a
then.
grandfather too than a
Oh, I
father
tell
too, right?
you, so much fun. The kids are crying. Take them.
Sushil, when you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I think that what is part of what's so interesting about the genesis story behind Leader Bank as we know it today, is that you really kind of identified a niche, and you said you wanted to reach out to first-time home buyers, and obviously the residential lending aspect of the business has exceeded records year after year here coming out of the pandemic and rolling into 22. I mean, we've seen really growth that's pretty unprecedented. How much and how important is it to maintain that service level and really, especially in the home buying process? It is an intimately personal experience. It's one of the, really, if you want to call it a milepost or a linchpin experience in your entire life. How important is it to remain, even as the organization has grown, that commitment to really building relationships on that one-on-one level?
The bank was founded to help immigrants, low-income home buyers,
Yeah.
to buy their dream home.
Right.
And every time somebody sent me a thank you note, I felt so good that, okay, I made a difference in their life.
Yeah.
I still believe in the same thing.
Right.
When I talk to loan originators, when we hire them, I tell them that you need to you can do a lot of loans, but when you are helping somebody
Right.
who there are not too many people willing to help, who is a low-income home buyer, as an immigrant,
Right.
that's our pride. We want to continue to do that. Whichever neighborhood it is, we want to go there. We want to help people out to be a homeowner there. But at the same time, we are doing the same thing with the small business owners. You've seen like last year during the PPP program,
Right.
where all the big banks, they said, oh, we want to cater to our big clients. And
Right.
Leader Bank said, no, we want to do the smallest loan we can. The smallest loan we did was $1,000. It takes the same amount of time to do a $1,000 loan than
right,
to
right,
100,000.
Right.
But the $1,000 loan, that person we did it, it's a small bakery shop. They're going to stay in business.
Right.
Or they're going to keep one or
Right.
two of their employees
Right,
here.
exactly.
That's where my pride comes.
Right. How I mean, when we talk about Again, I think I used the term in Jay's episode as well, unprecedented times. It's become cliche. I feel bad almost using it, but truly in this sense, we've had some conversations with other folks inside of the bank. When the PPP program was introduced, basically the bank had about a day to get everything ready to go as people were going to start coming in with applications. Have you ever seen, this is almost unprecedented in the history of this nation, in Western civilization, if you will, such a quick mobilization. Can you talk about a little bit about that time and just the work, really dogged determination that it took from the entire team to make sure that the bank was ready to be able to service those people in a time of critical need?
So when the PPP program was announced, and the SBA said, okay, this is the day you can start taking applications. Lot of banks were not ready. They didn't know what to do, how to do it.
Right.
We developed technologies. So at 12 o'clock, midnight, at 12:01, 6 of the technology people, myself, our lenders, we were ready to start taking applications. And honestly, before like 7, there were about 20 people who applied for PPP loans. Our was, if you need a PPP loan, you come to Leader Bank, we're going to give it to you. Whether you are a client of ours or you are not a client of ours,
right.
we're going to help you out.
Right.
Whereas many of the other banks, they had like, okay, if you're not our client, we're going to help you. If you're a client, you have to have so much minimum deposit.
Right.
Ours was, no, just you need a money. If you can save some job, if you can stay in business, we're going to do it. I was a small business man myself.
Right, exactly.
So,
it really kind of comes back to roost in that way. Right.
Right. Yeah.
You take care of yourself as you would help. It's kind of that golden rule kind of.
Right. You help somebody else and you just keep helping.
I mean, the numbers, when I know we were talking before, we don't want to, get too bogged down in numbers, but the numbers are actually quite staggering. When we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that were accessed through that, PPP program.
Right.
But then also in kind, because of that, I think Leader has really carved out a very strong position for itself within the SBA community, and that recognition has really come back in due fold.
We were the top retail SBA lender. Right. Last year, we were the top SBA lenders to veterans. We have been top SBA lender to immigrants. This is what it's like. Because when we do SBA loans, it doesn't matter who it is. It's
right.
like if you need
Absolutely.
it, we're going to help you out.
Absolutely. Just talk a little bit, more from the logistical perspective, Mr. Sheila. If somebody is in one of those situations and they're starting your own business is, again, one of those great adventures of life that can be offered to anybody. How do they go about that process? How do they come into the bank and really kind of get that ball rolling?
So we have a team who works with small business owners. So once they come and apply for a loan with us, or they even discuss with us, we even don't care if you apply for a loan or not. You need help, you come, discuss your business plan with us. I will say, either we'll tell you, okay, yes, we can help you, or we'll show them where they can go, whether they can go to Mass Growth Capital Corporation. I was on their board, and you can get loans from them, you can go to SBA, or wherever. We are not going to say, oh, we cannot help you, but we don't know where to go.
Right.
We will help them out.
Right.
But like more than 90%, chances are we're going to help them out.
Yeah.
I get involved in those meetings myself.
Yeah.
Because then I understand. And sometimes, I do coaching myself. I've done coaching to so many small business owners there.
Right.
And then goal is to help them succeed and become a bigger business people.
I can only imagine how many of those instances you've probably had through the years now where, people have gone through that iterative process of, hey, I have an idea for this. I don't really know how to go it. I assume that's got to be one of the most rewarding experiences in this field.
Very much so. And I do it. Because of pandemic, it's less people come to me. It used to be like at least once in a month. I'm sitting down with somebody, coaching them, helping them out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you see that going forward? Do you see that coming back? Do you see that ratcheting up? As I think a lot of people coming out through the pandemic, they're looking at their life in a different way, and maybe, for all intents and purposes, we're all human at the end of the day, and maybe this is the opportunity to say, hey, I'm trying something new in my life. A lot of what our life used to be looks very different from what it used to be and as to what it is now or could be in the future. Do you kind of starting to see that the entrepreneurial spirit kind of come back and take hold?
Absolutely. I met a gentleman last week, and he's a medical professional.
Okay.
But he said, I want to build real estate. I own one house, but I want to. He was very aggressive. He said, I want to have $100 million worth of portfolio.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, yes, that's your dream. It will happen, but don't think it's going to happen in 2
Right.
years, 3 years.
Yeah.
But this is how it's going to happen, and we'll
Right.
hold your hand.
Right.
And we do help them. I have many clients who started with this small business or small properties, and they become like they have a lot of properties now. One example I remember, when I opened the bank, somebody walked in my office, local business person, and he said, you're a new businessman. I just want to know, who is this bank about? We got to know the guy owns one business in Arlington. He owns about 5, 6 now in various time, similar business, and he owns a lot of real estate. And
Okay.
he has become a good friend now.
Okay.
And what I believe in, you create spokesperson for your business.
Right.
When
right.
you have somebody
absolutely.
and they are happy and they're growing, they're going to go out and they're going to talk about your business
Right.
and they're going to talk about you.
Right.
And I'm good at it. doing
Right.
that.
Yeah. That's the best way to grow anything,
Right.
truly. Sushil, I know you probably don't like to talk about yourself all that much, but there is something that we do need to bring up before we move on. And this is really something that is quite amazing as you lined up the entire story, kind of one of those great mileposts. At the end of last year, you were named class director at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. You know, for all people that may be listening that are in the industry, they understand the prestige that comes with that. For casual listeners that are trying to get themselves into the world of banking, they may not be quite as familiar with what that means. But for everybody in the industry, that, quite frankly, to put it bluntly, pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. Again, is that one of those moments in your life where you kind of look back over the accumulation of what Leader Bank has become? Do you take that opportunity to see that and to understand that the recognition from your peers too, as a respected leader within the community, both in Boston and abroad? Do you take a moment to take pause in that and kind of, just celebrate that?
Absolutely. Over the years, like I was appointed by Governor Charlie Baker on Mass Housing Board. And then I served on the board of Mass Growth Capital Corporation. I serve on a nonprofit board of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute.
Yeah.
And then last year when I got the call from Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, and they say they had a Class A board member position coming up, and they were considering me for that position. I was amazed that out of like 150 banks, they reached out to me. Of course, I was very excited about it. You have to submit your application, your bio, your details and things. And then I was nominated, and then all the bank CEOs in Massachusetts, they have to vote.
Right.
That was the biggest honor that the other bankers, they felt that, okay, Sushil Tully is the right person who can represents the banks at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. So in January, it was announced that I have been appointed Class A Director of Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. It's a 3-year term. It's a great learning experience.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot. I'm meeting new people. I'm learning how the system works at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. And I'm very proud that I got appointed to this position.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sushil, before we go here, I have to ask you one last question because I asked this to Jay as well. Obviously, anniversaries, birthdays, things of that nature, you kind of take stock, you look back, you look forward. We'll end this by looking forward. We're at the 20th anniversary now. If we were to sit across each other in another 20 years, the 40th anniversary, where do you see Leader Bank? Where do you see this organization going, and where do you see it, moving into different levels, perhaps?
So one thing I know, 20 years from now, I will not be the CEO chairman of the bank. Where it will be Jay or somebody else. But I think initially the growth is slower. When I open the bank, it takes time to build capital to grow.
Right.
Now it's like it took us 20 years to get to $3 billion. It won't take us 20 years to get to $6 billion. I see 20 years from now, Leader Bank, one of the major bank in Massachusetts, not only in Massachusetts, could be in the whole Northeast region there, and providing employment opportunities to many employees. I see we have 450 employees. That time it could be thousands of employees working with us. But the values of Leader Bank will not change even 20 years from now.
Right. That's the North Star to keep. I like it. Sushil, this has been a real distinct pleasure of mine. Great to have you here. Come by anytime, obviously. We'll be hanging out here, but thanks again for taking the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Scott. And I'm going to take you on that offer because I'll be coming here, recording things all the time. But I really appreciate you. It means a lot to me that what you're doing for the Leader Bank. It's valuable to us as the management team. And also, as you interview, like you interviewed Sean, you interview some other people, you will interview loan officers.
Yeah.
It shows that Leader Bank cares about its community we serve, our employees, and everybody else there.
It's part of the fun part for me as somebody who likes to just get to know people and talk face to face. Obviously, coming out of the last couple of years, we haven't had many of those opportunities. So the more we get to do that, I want to just take the listeners along on that journey. And this is a great place to begin. So thanks again, Sushil. We'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. We'll do that. Thank you.
For more information on today's subject, visit leaderbank.com. In addition to past episodes, you can also find our corresponding blog entries there for more insights. This podcast is a production of Leader Bank NA, equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS number 449250.